Hi, I am Vimin, Asia Regional Director for Focus on the Family Global. Do you remember meeting your future spouse for the first time? What was it about them that attracted you? Was it the smile, the beauty, the ways they make you laugh, or how they make you feel? Those early days of a relationship are so exciting and filled with fun. Everything seems so perfect. And then real life happens. Work gets busy. Children need extra attention. They are all good things, but good things can get in the way of a happy marriage. Suddenly, it seems there's no time for date nights or heart to heart conversations, and marriage becomes nothing more than a business relationship. What if you could recapture some of the old spark and take your marriage back to those fun and loving days when life seemed full of promises? That's our goal with today's Perfect 10 Marriage Asia event. We have invited couples from all over the Asia region to share their journey. We have asked how they have dealt with life's challenges and how they have kept falling in love with each other over and over again. Their answers might not surprise you, not because they have some radical new idea, but because these couples have faced the same issues you and your spouse face every day. So whether you are in Mongolia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan, or Indonesia, I think you'll be encouraged by what these couples have to say. Thank you for joining us for the Perfect 10 Marriage Asia event. And now I'd like to introduce you to our hosts, Dr. Greg and Erin Smalley. Greg and Erin are authors, counselors, marriage experts at Focus on the Family USA. They will share ways you and your spouse can use today's event to help your marriage grow stronger and better. So grab a coffee or tea, relax, and enjoy the event.
I still think it's probably the most craziest conversation we've ever had in our marriage. And it happened literally 2 weeks into our marriage.
And I never in a million years thought we would be talking about it either, because it wasn't that big of a deal. I was just asking a simple question. I wanted to know how I was doing as a wife. So I asked 0 to 10, how am I doing? 0, I'm the worst wife. 10, I'm the greatest wife. Where do I fall?
Simple, right, guys? So I had no idea even how to answer that. So I actually thought about it, and I thought I came up with a pretty good answer. And I said to her, honey, I'm proud to tell you that you are a 9.3. And as you could imagine, you weren't real excited about that answer.
And every woman out there gets it, that a 9.3 is like failing, essentially.
We spent about another hour debating this whole number system. And I think it ended when Erin said, she got so frustrated, she said, oh yeah? She goes, I might be a 9.3, but at least I'm not a 5 like you are.
Ouch, that wasn't very nice.
Well, as a C student though, that felt about right. You know what, as I think about that story, I think what really stands out is that I think that we all are striving for that perfect 10 marriage. We don't want the 9.3 marriage. The reality is that Erin and I are imperfect people that are married to each other. There is no perfect 10. We will never be able to get there. As a matter of fact, Erin and I really believe that if you have unwavering commitment, in other words, you are committed to each other for a lifetime. I always tell Erin, I'm with you till the end. So if you have that commitment, but then you're also committed to growing together. See, that's the key. It's not about perfection. It's not about getting that 0 to 10, that 10 marriage, although Erin is a 15 now as a wife.
We've grown a lot, and you're about a 15 as well.
So it's not about figuring out how do we have the perfect marriage. It's just accepting 2 imperfect people who are committed for a lifetime, who are going to keep doing things to grow together. And that's really what we want to focus on, is some areas of importance that we need to be growing in.
Today, we want to encourage you and your spouse to grow in 5 main areas: communicating with each other, spending time together, dealing with conflict, sharing responsibilities, and strengthening your intimacy. Our hope is as you delve into these 5 areas, you'll grow closer together and grow closer to God through this experience.
So to unpack these 5 areas, we've invited couples from all around the world who are going to share their stories and how they've worked through these issues and how they're stronger now in their marriage.
You're not going to be just staring at a screen. We're going to include fun challenges and activities for you and your spouse to participate in together.
So before we jump into these 5 growth areas, we want to introduce you to the couples who are going to be sharing their stories.
所以在以前刚开始交往，甚至于后来进入婚姻，其实我们没有太多的沟通，反正唯一就是完全配合，完全顺服。那对我来讲，我觉得这是一个很合理的事情，因为爸爸以前跟妈妈相处也是如此。但是这是问题的症结，也是后来冰山发作的一角哈，因为冲突太多。
Jadi awal-awal konflik itu, lalu kebiasaan betul meletakkan barang. Karena saya bukan tipe yang terlalu rapi, sementara Arnold tipe yang sangat ekstra rapi. Jadi ya ada lah ya konflik-konflik.
Ямар л бол харилцах үедээ дандаа сөрөг харилцааны байдал руу сөрөг уур амьсгал руу ингээ орчдөг гэсэн. Тэгээд жоохон хорц яг миний хувьд бол битэрийн хувьд бол нэлээд хямралын үе исэн юм шиг бас санагддаг. Тэгээд тэр үеийг бас ингээ эргээ харахад бас нэг бодлын хэцүү байсан боловч илүү бас биеийнхээ илүү ойлголцсон юм болов гэж би одоо эргээ боддог.
I know now more than the day when I married Jean that she loves me. I know now with deeper assurance that Jean loves me today more than what I could even imagine, ever possibly imagine on the day of when we got married.
So as we all know, communication can be difficult, especially between a husband and a wife. I know often I'll call Greg at work and just launch into a story. For example, one day I was going at lunchtime to play cards with a bunch of my friends. And, I had the address, I put it into my GPS, and I pulled up when it said you had arrived. So I got out of my car, walked up the sidewalk, got to the front door, and there was even a sign that said, come on in. So in I went, and I started to look around, and I thought, this doesn't look the same. And I started to realize that I didn't really recognize any of the women either, but I figured, other women are playing this month. And so then a woman in the other room stood up and she said, okay, ladies, come on in for the school meeting. And so so she said, are you not here for the school meeting? And I said, no, I'm here to play cards. And she said, who plays cards at lunchtime? And so she said, whose house are you looking for? So I told her and she said, oh, that's 2 doors up. Humiliated. But I had to call Greg and let him know that this crazy thing had just happened to me.
Even though I was in the middle of work when Erin called, and I think I was really focused on something, which oftentimes is hard. So Erin will call if I'm in the middle of something. It's really hard to connect. But that really is what you were trying to do. Mm-hmm. You weren't trying to waste my time or interrupt my day. You were trying to connect. And that's the essence of communication. It's all about connection.
Mm-hmm. There's a researcher here in the States, Dr. John Gottman, who looks at bids for connection, that actually when our spouse approaches us and brings something up, like, hey, listen to what happened to me today, really what I was saying is, I want to connect with you. And we have a choice. We can ignore it or we can turn towards and embrace that opportunity. And that's what Greg did that day. I called, although he was working, we had an opportunity to connect.
Well, let's now turn to our couples and hear how they've used communication to connect in their marriage.
We actually help each other to be a better person. And when he is a better listener, I am less afraid to express my thoughts and my emotions, because some thoughts and emotions, I'm a slow processor, so I need to process my thoughts. And sometimes when I am upset, it takes me a long time to process my thoughts. And because he has become a much better listener, I know that he's not going to jump at me at everything that I say. I know that he's just going to listen through and wait for me to express my thoughts, no matter how long it takes for me to share my emotions. It has definitely gotten better, and therefore we are able to deal with these conflicts. And it takes time. It took time over the years for us to learn to do that.
所以在以前刚开始交往，甚至于后来进入婚姻，其实我们没有太多的沟通，反正唯一就是完全配合、完全顺服。那对我来讲，我觉得这是一个很合理的事情，因为爸爸以前跟妈妈相处也是如此。但是这是问题的症结，也是后来冰山发作的一角哈。因为冲突太多，那现在沟通的方式就是如果我在跟他谈的过程当中，我发现他不想听或者不想做，我就会跟他讲说，如果你真的不想做，你只要告诉我，很明确的告诉我，那么我就不会再要求。那经过一段时间的相处跟沟通之后，我也发现其实我要更尊重维林的想法，因为毕竟他不是我，我不是他。
Yes. Caranya adalah tetap ya clearness communication ya, ada komunikasi yang jelas, lalu juga mempraktekkan yang namanya mendengar dengan aktif tuh. Artinya ketika salah satu kami sedang berbicara, tidak ada yang sibuk, misalnya pegang handphone atau aktivitas lain dan mendengarkan, lalu tidak ada memotong pembicaraan di tengah, tapi biarkan pasangannya selesai dulu sampai selesai, baru kita berespon. Gitu, dan juga pasti perhatikan intonasinya ya, kalau kita ya, kalau intonasinya tinggi kan nanti penerimaannya beda, bahwa sedang marah atau apa ya. Jadi memang kita belajar untuk menyampaikan sesuatu dengan clear, memperhatikan intonasi dan juga belajar untuk mengaktifkan pendengaran kita.
Tambah satu lagi ya, eye contact itu penting ya.
Yes.
Jadi kontak mata kalau bicara supaya kita juga merasa didengar gitu, direspon. Jadi selain intonasi tadi aku pikir kontak mata. Kontak mata itu penting, yang menunjukkan bahwa kita memang betul-betul mendengarkan. Jadi intinya bukan hanya
pura-pura ya, mengabaikan,
tapi betul-betul mendengarkan.
Yes, memperhatikan dan berempati kali ya pada pasangan kita, apa yang mau dia sampaikan.
So remember, we told you you're not going to just be staring at a screen. So this is challenge number 1. We're going to give you the opportunity to interact with your spouse around communication.
But communication doesn't always involve words. So for many couples, you have a special handshake, a way you hold hands, or some sort of loving gesture that's just between the two of you. And we want you to practice that now. And I know for some of you, you're going, we have nothing. Great. So now's your chance to make one up. I know for us, we've been doing our special handhold for many, many years.
It's actually one that's been handed down through the generations of the Smalley family. I can remember your dad telling us, when you hold hands, you got to put your pinky in between the second and third finger. So when we hold hands, this is what it looks like. And whenever we hold hands like this, for me, it just is a sweet, safe feeling inside, knowing that this is just our special thing.
So go ahead and practice yours or make one up, reminisce when this first started, or if it's new, what does it mean between the two of you? Erin and I certainly try to, as best we can, prioritize date nights. I remember one of my very favorite date nights happened. There was a new sushi restaurant that opened up near our house. And remember, we were so excited to go.
Sushi heaven. Like, as all you can eat, as much as you wanted. So
Say that again. All you can eat sushi.
So off we went on our date night. We were so excited. And we just ordered everything we ever wanted. And soon we began to slow a little bit with our eating because we were getting full.
We finally at the end just said, you know what, we've got to tap out, and we asked for a to-go container for all of our leftover sushi, only to be informed that not only could we not take it with us, but we had to pay for anything that was left on our plate. And that was so confusing. So we did what any good financial stewards would do. We just tried to eat and finish up whatever sushi was left. And we were just so full, and we still had sushi. So my wife did something that to this day I still am so pleasantly surprised. I was so proud of her.
Well, I don't know if it was just me. I think he participated too. I began hiding, or we began hiding sushi behind the curtain. There was a little decorative vase that had beads in it, and we put one down there and covered it up. And
I had some soup, and I was trying to dunk sushi
we turned
inside
bowls
that.
over and put them there. And then we realized actually what we were doing, and we started cracking up, and we're like, we're going to have to pay for the sushi.
Yes, it was probably the most expensive meal we've ever had. In so many ways, life is exactly like this all-you-can-eat sushi, because the sushi just keeps coming at you and at you and at you. And now we're all busy raising kids and working and church activities and friends. And you think of all of the responsibilities, and it can be overwhelming. We feel like that overflowing sushi plate. And that's why it can be so hard then to carve out time to spend as a couple because of all these other responsibilities. But, you know, in many ways, in the same way we got to pick and choose what went on our sushi plate, you know, in life we get to choose. And we need to choose the things that matter the most. And again, Erin and I, we get busyness. We have 4 children. We get all that. Both of us work. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're prioritizing each other, making sure that we're spending time together. Well, let's turn to our couples and find out what they've learned about spending time together.
За бид тэр жоохон өөр хамт байхдаа ерөнхийдөө зугаалах ер нь дуртай. Би бол ерөнхийдөө зүгээр хамт л сууж байгаа нэг юм зүгээрээ хийх аюу дуртай байхгүй. Зүгээр л байх дуртай. Ямар нэгэн хөтөлбөргүй. Манай эхнэр бол арай жоохон хөтөлбөртэй. Хамт яг гэрүүлээрээ хоол моол хийгээл эсвэл зугаалах ч юм уу, хамт кино үзэх ч юм тийм дуртай. Гэж зөв үү.
Би гадуур хооллох нэг дуртай ш. Гэртээ ингээл хамт гоё хоол идэл, зургт үзэл, кино үздэг ч юм уу.
Бас хамт гитар дарж дуудуулах дуртай.
Ингээ гоё байгаль сууж байгаа.
Спортын тэмцээн оролдоонд хамт оролцох бас их дуртай.
Хамт цагсны тэмцээнд ордог.
Дуртай. Ер нь бол би бол их дуулдаг, гитар дарж дуулдаг. Тэгээд эхнэр дагаад дуулдаг. Гэхдээ заримдаа дагаад дуулахгүй байгаа ч юм шиг санагдах үедээ хамт дуулъя гээл тэ. Одоо хэлдэг. Аялал зугаалгалд явахдаа би жишээлбэл байнга л гитар аваад дуулж. Тэгээд ганцаараа дуулаад хахаар жоохон заримдаа хэцүү байдаг. Тэгээд хэлдэг хамт сууд дуулъя гээл ерөнхийдөө гэрийнхэндээ дуртай юу тэ.
What do we enjoy doing together now?
Besides sex.
Don't do that. Don't. So earlier on in our marriage, I realized that we're actually quite different. We have different interests. TC enjoys swimming. I hate the water. I get attacked by all sorts of creatures at the beach. So it's terrible. So, you know, so we have to find something that we enjoy together.
I've learned to love running with her. Not the run itself, but after the run when we go and eat.
It's a wholesome activity that we get to do together, knowing that we're doing it with each other and that we can look forward to more of doing the similar things together. Our common interest is around the outdoor and food, so that's really something that we enjoy doing together. So in Malaysia, we have this term called jalan-jalan cari makan, and that's what we enjoy doing.
Yeah.
譬如，其实一鸣也有很多次啦，大概有跟我讲过，就是说他很希望可以有一个我们2个人的一个旅行。那他其实已经跟我讲很多年了。我最近就跟他说，我觉得如果我其实是真的在今年真的就有想说，也许今年我们2个就可以。后来当然又发生疫情，也不用去了。我觉得夫妻有的时候，我突然觉得需要一些单独相处的时间。
真的。
就是单单你跟先生。我后来真的觉得，其实还是我觉得那个夫妻的关系真的要刻意的经营，有时候好像不能那么放松，然后要有一点刻意哦，包含我刚刚讲的，要有一个两人的旅行的时间。
Okay, so here's your second challenge. Think about one of your most favorite date nights that you've ever had with your spouse. Talk about it, and then go ahead and start planning another date night similar to it.
Erin and I want to talk about such an important topic, and that's conflict. And certainly if you have a perfect 10 marriage, you never experience conflict. I know we don't, at least we haven't in the last 5 minutes, because all of us experience conflict. I'll never forget the time that we were taking our youngest daughter, Annie, to a soccer game, and it was just, I was stressed. I think I had stuff going on at work that I needed to be doing.
Well, and we were late, of course. And
yes.
it always amazes me, these little parks become like mounds of people on the weekend for soccer games. And so, of course, the parking lot was jam-packed. There were cars lining the street.
Not to mention that I had my young daughter in the back seat telling me where I should turn and how I should park.
And hurry up, Dad, hurry up, I'm going to be late.
I mean, I was so stressed by this time that I was done. And finally a spot opens up, and so I'm trying to parallel park into the spot, which I can do. So I want that to be clear. I can parallel park. I don't know what was going on, but I was having the hardest time. So I'd pull and turn and then have to stop and pull up again and then try it again. And it was like after the third time, my darling wife goes, "Do you need me to park the car?"
Well, I could tell you were getting frustrated and
Really?
that your heart rate was rising. And I was like, you know what, really, honestly, I'm okay. I'm good. I can park the car. You take Annie and go. Well, my simple suggestion didn't go over real big.
Because I understand what you were trying to say, and that was very gracious of you to offer that help. How I heard it at the time was, you're an idiot. You can't park a car. Failure, so why don't you let a real parker drive the car, whatever. And so all I did is I slammed the car into park in the middle of the road, and I get out and I'm gone. I leave. I'm done with all of this. And I probably got about 10 steps, and then the thought occurred to me that if I leave my wife and young daughter alone in the middle of the road, it's probably not going to bode well for me. And so I came back and I apologized for my toddler-like outburst, and I'm sure we worked through it. Here we are,
Yes, we did.
still
we
in
worked
love.
through it. I believe we actually worked through it sitting on the sidelines of the game that day. We had a good little talk about, we've been going to soccer games for many, many, many years.
Yeah. Ugh. You know what? The bottom line is all of us experience conflict. So the perfect 10 marriage is not going to be absent of conflict, because it's normal. It's just a part of life when you have two people who are very different trying to do life together 24/7. It's going to create conflict, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. And often when we hear the word conflict, we even have a reaction to it. So often what we'll end up doing is avoiding conflict. We want to encourage you, don't avoid conflict. It doesn't have to be combat. Combat is where we're saying awful things and
leaving your family in the middle of the road,
slamming the car into park and walking away. We're not talking about that. We're talking about working through differences, because when we don't talk about it or when we avoid it, what we actually do is bury things alive. Yeah. And then what ends up happening is we end up becoming bitter and frustrated and angry, and the next time something happens, we have even a bigger reaction to it. So it's important that we don't avoid it, but we do it in a healthy way.
I love in the Bible, in the New Testament, James 1:2 says that when trials come your way, consider that an opportunity. And that's been so helpful for me to see conflict as an opportunity so that we don't end up avoiding it like at the soccer game, that we can figure this out in a way that feels good to both of us. So let's go back to our couples and hear how they've learned how to manage conflict in their marriage.
Nah, ayo.
Ya, satu kami belajar punya prinsip tidak mencoba menyelesaikan ketika sedang emosi.
Yes.
Jadi ketika sedang naik darah, ketika sedang merasa marah atau merasa kecewa, kami belajar untuk tidak langsung berusaha menyelesaikan ya. Tapi mengambil waktu menenangkan diri. Jadi misalnya berkonfliknya siang ini. Nah, kami cek hati dulu, sudah siap nggak untuk membicarakan? Misalnya belum, maka kita bersepakat untuk kita hold ya, kita simpan dulu. Kita akan bicarakan misalnya besok atau kapan. Jadi cari waktu yang baik dan cari tempat yang baik juga. Sehingga ada waktu jeda untuk menenangkan diri dan berpikir rasional sebenarnya akar masalahnya di mana. Setelah cukup tenang dan dingin, ya kita ketemu dan berbicara. Biasanya itu lebih efektif ya. Akhirnya kita bisa mengurai permasalahan dan perbedaan pendapat dan menemukan akarnya di mana, solusinya di mana. Jadi ya itu pun pembelajaran ya. Kalau awal-awal dulu enggak sih.
Awal-awal dulu reaktif. Bahkan pakai WhatsApp dulu. Panjang lebar gitu sampai kita berpikir ngapain ya kita pakai WhatsApp? Kan pada akhirnya juga misunderstanding.
Jadi bukan bahasa tulisan tapi bahasa
verbal.
Ямар л бол харилцах үедээ дандаа сөрөг харилцааны байдал руу сөрөг уур амьсгал руу ингээ орчдөг гэсэн. Тэгээд жоохон хорц яг миний хувьд бол битэрийн хувьд бол нэлээд хямралын үе исэн юм шиг бас санагддаг. Тэгээ тэр үеийг бас ингээ эргээ харахад бас нэг бодлын хэцүү байсан боловч илүү бас биеийнхээ илүү ойлголцсон юм болов гэж би одоо эргээ боддог. Гэрлээд ерөөхдөө удааг байх үедээ бас гэр бүл тохиолддог яг асуудлуудтай тэр зама ойлголцлын асуудлуудтай их тулгарч исэн. Нэг хэсэг ер нь нэлээд ширүүн маргалж исэн. Амнаасаа хэд хэдэн удаа саллий гэдэг үгийг одоо тэр үед гаргаж исэн л да. Тэгээд тэр үеийг одоо яаж давсан бэ гэхээр ерөөхдөө нэг ах маань надад зөвлөсөн ерөөхдөө юуг зөвлөсөн бэхэр чи ер нь эр хүн гэдэг бол илүү бараг л эхнэрийнхээ аав шиг илүү төлөвшөлтэй байж яг адил төвшөнд тэмцэл мөргөлдөөнд оролцоол ингээ маргаадахаас илүүгээр илүү буйртай байгаад илүү одоо төлөвшөлтэй байж ийм хариуцлагатай байх хэрэгтэй гэдгийг надад зөвлөж ирсэн. Тэр бол ерөөхдөө миний харилцаанд бол ерөөхдөө маш том нөлөө үзүүлсэн. Би их нартайгаа ерөөхдөө маргаж ингээл адилхан дээр нь гарах гал эсвэл адилхан гомдож эсвэл нэг тиймэрхүү байдал руу орохгүй илүү одоо өөрийгөө илүү одоо хариуцлагыг өөрөх тийм байдал руу орсон гэх юм уу. Тэгээд тэрнээс хойш ерөөхдөө бас олон их нарттай гомдож бухимдах зүйлс маань илүү ойлгоё да за яах вэ гэж яг өөжөө байхад илүү тийм болсон.
There was one period where we were both emotionally really drained and we were in a conflict. There was a particular conflict that we really couldn't move on and we just couldn't move on, yeah. And so we actually have a couple mentor whom we went to, and these are people who love us, who will listen to us, and they will not judge us. They will give us loving advice, and that's something we are very blessed to have. But it's also something that didn't just happen. We have been very intentional in surrounding ourselves, our families, with people, like-minded people who love us, who care for us. And so these are people who have really helped us in times of conflict. Yeah.
Mentors are important for me because they provide a very safe place for me to sound out and to express my thoughts, my frustrations. And the fact is, not everything that I have in my mind, I'm able to say it directly to Jean. So having a safe place where I can express and to hear them reflecting back of what I've said really helps clarify my thoughts and also to give me a different perspective of the conflicts. And that is really precious because the fact of the matter is that when we are in the time of conflict, in my mind, I'm not thinking clearly. And when you mix it with all the emotions, a third party who love us, who have the clarity of the situation as they listen to us, is definitely helpful support during such time.
So challenge number 3, once you've worked through conflict, there's an opportunity to reconnect. And so maybe you've developed traditions of how do we reconnect after we've had conflict. Maybe it's going out for coffee, or maybe it's dancing, taking time to dance. So we want to challenge you, take 60 seconds right now, right where you are. Maybe it's your living room or maybe you're in your kitchen, to dance with your spouse.
Guys, I want you to reach out, take the hand of your wife, and invite her to dance with you. Another area that we want to focus on is how do we make decisions together as a team? How do we divide up household responsibilities and really stay connected? Because the chore wars can create a lot of difficulties in your marriage. I know for us it does. I'll never forget the time that I came home from work. As I walked in, I could just see the chaos from you trying to manage the kids and homework, and you were preparing dinner as there was so much going on. And instantly I recognized, I need to jump in and help. And so I simply said to Erin, hey, how can I help? And I'll never forget your response.
I'm guessing you didn't expect the response you got, because I was kind of like, you know what, Greg, half of all of this is yours. So I think I said something like, you're a big boy, jump in wherever something needs to be done. And I don't know that went over real big.
I remember feeling so offended, like, oh my goodness, I was totally just offering my help out of the goodness of my heart, and you're now attacking me. So I kind of very quietly went about helping. And then later on, I went to Erin and said, hey, earlier, I got to be honest, that kind of hurt my feelings. I said, I genuinely walked in and saw that you needed help, and I was really just trying to do that. And she said, every time that you simply offer your help, what you're implying is that all of this is my responsibility, and you're just out of the goodness of your heart offering to help now. But ultimately, it's still my responsibility. And I just kind of sat there bewildered thinking, well, surely that can't be how I really think or feel. And honestly, you guys, the more we talked about this, the more that I realized that that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah, I hear about this a lot with the couples I work with in marriage counseling. And so I know that it's not just us that deals with this. Really, the question I was asking that day, you were saying, how can I help? Well, really what I was wanting to know is, are we in this together? Are you with me in every area of our life? And I see time and time again, and I know from my own experience as well, that when one person feels like they are carrying the bulk of the load, that resentment can set in, bitterness can set in, someone can feel like they're being taken advantage of, and that just doesn't go well relationally.
No, it creates such disconnection in the relationship. But I think at the end of the day, as we're dealing with these chore wars, we've got to figure out some way to divide this up in a way that feels good to both people. It can't just be what feels good to me. It's got to be something that feels good for both of us. And so I know if our attitude is we're both equally responsible, we're trying to outserve one another, and then we're finding solutions that feel good to both of us, I know that we'll get through this. And I know our couples have gone through very similar experiences. So let's listen to how they've managed chore wars.
我觉得我爱你跟辛苦了，其实我觉得这个六字绝句了。这两句话，我觉得就可以帮助在婚姻上，我相信会有很大帮助。就是刻意讲，就是刻意。我觉得有时候真的婚姻的经营，辛苦了这3个字，其实包含同理，包含安慰。包含支持，其实你仔细去想那3个字，当你在很累的时候，如果先生是说老婆你真的辛苦了，你知道那句话你会突然一下觉得他同理你的辛苦，然后他也安慰了你的辛苦，他也支持觉得你辛苦了。
Jadi kayaknya pembagian tanggung jawabnya itu based on kita mencoba memahami kapasitas dan keminat kita masing-masing. Lalu kemudian berjalan alami saja sih ya. Kayaknya nggak pernah terlalu ada pembagian. Misalnya contoh lain tanggung jawab. Saya lebih suka ngepel. Arno lebih suka menyapu. Ya sudah, saya yang ngepel dia yang nyapu. Jadi pembagian itu hal-hal kecil sepele ya.
Atau hal simpel misalnya Pinkan cuci piring, saya yang beresin.
Ya. Jadi kayaknya sih kami lebih kepada flow ya, let it flow, lalu melihat di mana intinya kami tidak pernah membedakan tanggung jawab laki-laki dan perempuan based on gender, tapi lebih kepada kalau saya bisa melakukan, saya melakukan gitu ya.
Betul.
Jadi kira-kira begitu.
Ataupun kalau ada satu hal yang memang saya merasa bahwa karena saya senang keteraturan gitu ya, ini kan kadang-kadang suka seenaknya aja nih, suka lupa gitu ya. Ya udah saya bersihin sendiri gitu tanpa dia protes, malah dia happy gitu. Asik, sudah bersih gitu.
Хариуцлагын тал дээр эхнэр нөхөр хоёр жоохон өөр гэж би ч тэгэж боддог. Эхнэр маань ч тэгэж боддог. Заавал бүх юмыг хуваагаал адилхан юм хийгээд байх ёсгүй байхаа гэж боддог. Жишээлбэл зарим нэг ганцгой эр хүнээс шалтгаалдаг зүйлсүүдээ айгүй сайн хийхийг боддог. Эхнэр маань бас хийдэг зүйлөө жоохон өөр. Гэхдээ мэдээж ачаал ихтэй эхнэр маань ядраад ч юм уу те. Эсвэл би хийж байгаа жишээлбэл засвар масар тийм зүйлээр тусламж хийхдээ бол мэдээж хийлнэ. Гэхдээ ерөнхийдөө жоохон өөр байгаад оролцоод байдгүй.
Ер нь бол одоо тий би гэхдээ гурил зурх дургу гуйгаад гурил зург тий надад туслах гурил зураад өгч гэвэл манай айгүй уртан зураад өгнө. Харин би тэр нэг ус буслагчны нэг жижиг мэвдрэхэд би тэрийг засч чадахгүй байхгүй юу? Санаа тавих. Тий. Тэрэнд би юусаас ч санаа зовдөггүй. Харин яадаг вэ гэхээр манай нөхөр тэрийг амжилтдаг ч юм уу. Эрэгтэй эмэгтэй хоёр хүний нэг гэр бүлээ авч явж байгаа өөрөг хариуцлага өөр ихгүй юу? Эрэгтэй хүний хийж чадах юм өөр, эмэгтэй хүний хийж чадах юм өөр. Хоёулаа хийж чадах юм байсан ч эрэгтэй хүнийхээ үүднээс, эмэгтэй хүнийхээ үүднээс хийх юмуд нь өөр байгаа. Хариуцлагын хувьд бол
зарим чухал үед мэдээж хамтдаа хийдэг. Жишээлбэл
одоо нэг нь ядарсан үед бол тусалдаг ч юм уу тий.
Би жишээл хоол заримдаа баяраар эсвэл хүн ирэхээр эсвэл ядарч байвал гинт хоол идэх ч юм. Түүнээс яг чи өнөөдөр хоолоо гэдэг маргааш би хоолоо гэж тэгээд хуваарлаад байдаггүй л дээ. Ер нь харж байгаа л ойлголцоо л тэгэл.
Challenge number 4, here it is. How do we say thank you to our spouse? Typically what we do is thank strangers, really strangers on the street, more than we thank our spouse for what they do. Because again, we're both busy and we're both doing a lot at home and outside of the home. So how do we genuinely thank our spouses? There's a difference between affirmation and gratitude. Affirmation is affirming something in your spouse. That's a good thing. But what we're talking about right now is gratitude. We're thanking them for something that they have done. So right here, right now, I want you to turn towards your spouse and express a heartfelt thank you for something that they have done, maybe in the last 24 hours or maybe the last 24 years. For example, you know what, Greg? you get up every single morning and you exercise, you empty the dishwasher, and then you go to work. And I don't know the last time I actually thanked you for taking care of yourself, for taking care of the dishes, as well as going to work and working hard for our family. So thank you.
Thank you. So now let's talk about intimacy. It's a great topic, my favorite topic to end with. And we're not just talking about sex. There's so much more to intimacy than just our physical relationship. I think one of the most important things that we can keep in mind is that we're always changing. I'll never forget the time that I knew that there was a lot going on, you were worn out, and so I think I called you and said, hey, don't worry about dinner. I'm going to pick up dinner on the way home. And so as I was driving by this pizza place, I'm like, oh, Erin loves pizza. And so I pulled in and ordered your favorite pizza. It's pineapple and ham pizza. Proudly brought that home, handed it to you, was waiting for the big, huge display of affection for bringing you your favorite pizza. Do you remember what happened?
I do remember, because what Greg had forgotten is that I had developed gluten intolerance. So now I ate gluten-free pizza, and I actually didn't even like pineapple and ham pizza anymore. I liked pepperoni mushroom gluten-free pizza. And I know in that moment, Greg was like, I don't even know what a gluten is.
No. I just said, hey, put the gluten on my side of the pizza. I thought it was a topping or something. No. And I'll never forget that moment of just realizing when did she stop liking pineapple and ham? And all it did was help me to remember that I need to make sure that I'm staying current with Erin.
And so we want to encourage you to keep the attitude of curiosity. That I know that Greg is always changing, I'm always changing, and if I keep the attitude of curiosity, well then I'm not going to assume that I know what he's thinking or feeling or what he wants on his pizza even. That asking and being curious about who our spouse is today.
You know, another important part of intimacy is to remember, like we said earlier, that intimacy is more than just sex. Sex is definitely an important part of intimacy. But I think for every human being, there's a deep longing to be known. And that's what I love about this idea of being curious. Not only is curiosity about staying current, but I need to stay curious about what's really going on in the inside, because I want to deeply know Erin. Intimacy is such an important part of our relationship. So let's find out from our couples how they continue to grow in their intimacy.
Everything being equal, you will be drawn apart. Yeah, not just in sex, but in every part of your marriage. And therefore, we always say that you have to protect it like a mother hen protecting little chicken, like fierce protection.
Sex is not just the icing on the cake, but a vital ingredient of the cake. Intimacy increases as we get to know each other. Not just on the act of sex itself, but also with all the other part of the cake coming together. Our communication gets better, we understand each other better. I know now more than the day when I married Jean that she loves me. I know now with deeper assurance that Jean loves me today more than what I could even imagine, ever possibly imagine on the day of when we got married.
有的时候就是我们两个人单独的面对面，把那些东西丢到旁边去， 然后回到原来的起初的那份爱，我想真的没有走不过去的路，也没渡不过去的难关。我们其实都要回到原来起初的那份，当初你看到他的那个感动跟感觉，而不是一直把这些问题跟这些难处放在我们夫妻之间，或是放在彼此之间的关系上。
Ya, karena kita hidup di Indonesia, kulturnya pasti kalau bicara tentang seks sih tabu ya. Tapi kan kita dapat pendidikan seks juga ketika dipersiapkan dalam pernikahan, dan kita kan sudah dewasa sehingga itu bukan suatu hal lagi untuk kita sampaikan bicara kepada pasangan.
Ya, betul. Jadi kalau di kultur Indonesia tuh biasanya sesuatu yang tidak dibicarakan terbuka, sehingga pada saat awal-awal menikah ya tentu ada masa-masa saling mengeksplorasi dan saling belajar. Jadi budaya kami tidak sepenuhnya memberikan edukasi yang terbuka. Mungkin ada informasi-informasi yang tidak tepat misalnya, ya itu akhirnya kami berusaha pelajari berdua dan mencari sumber-sumber data yang akurat ya, yang baik. Kira-kira begitu sih.
Энэ бол маш онцгой харилцаа эхнэр нөхрийн бүр ингээд хайраа илэрхийлж байгаа маш онцгой гоё харилцаа. Тэгээ энэ бол зөвхөн эхнэр нөхөрт байх тийм харилцаа. Хэрвээ дундуур нь өөр ямар нэг юм тархитлагууд нь сэтгэгдэжээвэл энэ үнэхээр эхнэр нөхрийн нандин харилцаа байж тоо болно гэж бодож байна.
Яг бурхан гэр бүл төгсөн. Тэгээд эхнэр нөхөр хоёр нэг болж байгааг илэрхийлж байгаа гол харилцаа гэж ойлгож байна. Бэлгийн харилцааны тал дээр ерөөдөө нээлттэй ярилцгал хэрэгтэй гэж ойлгодог. Нэг ч заавал санаа зовоод авах юм байхгүй. Тий. Тэр зама насан турсан тэгээ гэр бүл болсон хүмүүс бол өсөл бодлоо ямар байгаагаа яах ёстойгоо зүгээр л хэлэхэд болно гэж боддоо ш. Нууж агаал скол дуртай дургу байгаагаа нууж агаад тэгээд ах шаардлагагүй.
So challenge number 5, we have saved the best for last. We want you to turn towards your spouse and kiss for 15 seconds. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, this is so awkward. You know, the Guinness World Record for the longest kiss was broken by a couple in Thailand, and they kissed for like 50 some odd hours straight. I know, that's unnecessary. So all we're saying is turn towards your spouse, kiss for 15 seconds. On your mark, get set, go.
Welcome back. Well, okay, some of you need to stop kissing, so I'm thrilled you've taken it that serious. You know, we began our event really talking about that none of us can achieve a perfect 10 marriage because we're imperfect people. And really it's about staying committed to each other and committed to growing. And that's why we covered some important areas that Erin and I believe are essential to have a strong marriage.
And so we've talked about communication, time together, conflict, shared responsibility, and intimacy. And so I have one more challenge for you. As a couple, choose one of those 5 areas that you're going to focus on continuing to grow in over the next weeks and months to come. And we have absolutely loved being with you and sharing this time with you. So again, thank you for investing in your marriage and thank you for spending this time with us.
Terima kasih Dr. Greg dan Erin Smalley. Terima kasih untuk semua audiens yang telah dengan sabar mengikuti program 10 Perfect Marriage. Semoga dengan program ini pernikahan Bapak Ibu bisa kembali diperbaharui, direfresh, dan ada peningkatan hal-hal baik di dalam kehidupan pernikahan Anda semua. Sebelum kita menutup acara ini, kami ingin menyampaikan pengumuman penting untuk Bapak Ibu semua. Pelita Keluarga adalah yayasan yang bermitra dengan fokus on the family. Kami bertujuan untuk mentransformasi keluarga dan generasi di Indonesia melalui pemberdayaan di berbagai bidang kehidupan. kami memiliki program layanan keluarga melalui seminar pernikahan, parenting, dan juga hal-hal terkait dengan isu keluarga lainnya. Kami memiliki pelayanan bagi anak muda dengan nama program No Apologies. Selain itu, kami juga memberikan pendampingan kepada individu melalui coaching, mentoring, dan juga counseling. Kepada Bapak Ibu yang membutuhkan layanan tadi, jangan ragu untuk menghubungi kami di nomor WA 0853 67777 140 atau mengirimkan email kepada kami di fokuskeluarga.ind@gmail.com. Anda juga dapat melihat Instagram kami di IG @Pelita Keluarga dan @NoApologiesIndonesia. Kami sangat terbuka untuk menolong Bapak Ibu semua dan kami ingin membawa transformasi bagi keluarga dan generasi di Indonesia. Salam keluarga dan sampai jumpa dalam program kami berikutnya.